When Charlie Kirk's sudden death was announced, the political world froze. Within hours, hundreds of posts, podcasts, and live streams erupted across social media, but none hit harder than Candace Owens' reaction. Her response wasn't just emotional, it was explosive. What started as a moment of grief turned into a nationwide conversation about power, trust, and how quickly information spirals online. Candace questioned what really happened and whether authorities were telling the full story. She spoke with conviction, anger, and heartbreak, and almost instantly, clips of her comments began flooding every platform. On X, the hashtag #WhatCandaceSaid trended for an entire day. Supporters called her brave for speaking out when others stayed silent. Critics accused her of pushing dangerous speculation. And that split between outrage and defense quickly became the story itself. Within 24 hours, more than 1 million people had seen or shared fragments of Candace's video. Influencers from every corner of the internet dissected every word. Some praised her courage to challenge the narrative. Others warned that her tone could inflame conspiracy theories and make an already sensitive tragedy even harder for the family to bear. News outlets began covering the coverage, focusing not on Charlie's life, but on how his death had become a digital battleground. Major publications like the Daily Beast and Newsweek described it as another test of our post-truth culture, a moment where emotion spreads faster than evidence. Meanwhile, Turning Point USA released a short statement mourning Charlie but avoided responding directly to the growing online speculation about his widow, Erica Kirk. And for many viewers, that silence only raised more questions. Behind the scenes, the numbers told their own story. YouTube's algorithm pushed Candace's clip far beyond her usual audience. Each repost triggered more reaction videos, each reaction spawning another round of commentary. Media analysts later pointed out how the system rewards intensity. The more emotional the headline, the faster it spreads. What began as one woman's emotional live stream had evolved into a massive information storm, one that even Candace herself couldn't fully control. As the conversation grew, new claims began surfacing online. Screenshots, timelines, and supposed sources. Fact-checkers rushed to keep up. By the weekend, major platforms were labeling certain posts as unverified. But at that point, the narrative had already taken on a life of its own. Once people feel emotionally invested, corrections rarely travel as far as the initial story. Experts call it the outrage loop, a cycle where grief, distrust, and viral content mix into something that spreads too fast to fact-check in real time. In the middle of it all stood Erica Kirk, Charlie's widow and the new head of Turning Point USA. As she stepped into leadership just days after her husband's passing, every public statement she made was analyzed frame by frame. Some called her composed and courageous, holding the organization together through tragedy. Others found her demeanor too polished, interpreting it as distant. Clips from her first speech were remixed, captioned, and re-uploaded thousands of times. Without saying a word, she became one of the internet's most polarizing figures of the week. For Candace Owens, the backlash only intensified. Critics accused her of exploiting a tragedy, while her supporters insisted she was doing what journalists refused to, asking questions that made people uncomfortable. Candace pushed back against the criticism, saying that seeking truth should never be off-limits. She clarified that she wasn't accusing anyone of wrongdoing, only demanding transparency. Still, her name became a lightning rod for debate. Analysts compared her to other media personalities who walked the thin line between activism and investigation, raising awareness while risking misinformation fallout. By the second week, the view counts began to slow, but the online debate had already left a deep mark. What this entire situation revealed wasn't just about one event. It exposed how the modern audience consumes information. People don't just read headlines anymore. They remix them, reinterpret them, and react to them in real time. It showed how powerful social media can be at shaping perception long before facts are confirmed. In a digital world fueled by speed and emotion, truth often becomes a secondary concern. For Turning Point USA, the aftermath was complicated. Supporters rallied around the organization, while others quietly distanced themselves from the controversy. And for millions of onlookers, the whole ordeal became a case study in how quickly a tragedy can morph into a public spectacle. One where the lines between mourning, reporting, and entertainment blur completely. In the end, Charlie Kirk's death remains a profound loss for his supporters and colleagues. But what happened afterward? The rumors, the reactions, the digital storm may say more about the culture we've built than about the man himself. It showed how one emotional moment can ignite a nationwide conversation, one that reflects not just what we believe, but how we process grief and distrust in the age of instant information. Candace Owens' comments lit the initial match, but it was the audience, the algorithm, and the collective hunger for answers that kept the fire burning. And as social media inevitably moves on to the next controversy, the real question lingers. Are we truly searching for truth? Or just chasing the next viral rush of being the first to react? If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to subscribe. Here, we dig deeper into the stories behind the headlines, where influence, emotion, and perception collide. Because in a world that never stops reacting, understanding how the story spreads might be the only way to see the truth clearly.